We are humbled and filled with gratitude and with so much pride at the honor of receiving this award on behalf of our mother, Dr. Sibongile Khumalo. I remember how ecstatic she was when she received the news that she would be conferred with this honorary doctorate all the way back in March 2020. Sadly, she never got to experience this moment physically. However, I know without a doubt, she is with us in spirit. Mine is a simple task, and that is to share what she had prepared in her words. Well, mostly. This is how it goes. Bayabingelela okhongisa behamba namakhambane kanye namantunga nazo zonke ke izihlwele engihlezi ngihamba nazo. I stand in front of you feeling proud yet humbled by the honor that Wits University is bestowing on me. It was in December 1987 that I sat in this hallowed hall as I accompanied my father, Professor Kabi Vivian Mngoma, as he was conferred with an honorary doctorate in music. It has been a whirlwind ride since my student days at this university. When I cast my eyes to the future, I often go back to the years growing up in Soweto. Apart from my neighborhood, I often see a small room at the YMCA DOCC in Orlando East, Soweto. I was 13 years old when my father started the Ionian Youth Music Program, which operated from Orlando High School and Room 2 at the DOCC. Room 2 was a small space where dreams were born, nurtured, given wind, and allowed to soar. An oasis of learning, of exploration, of discovery, a safe space in which we felt covered and protected. A small room for truth-seeking, for the impeccable use of the word. Room 2 was a hive of seeding, of germination, and of great harvest. Being at Room 2 at the Orlando YMCA was a heady time, a time where the characters of young people were built, shaped, and chiseled. A precious time in which we were allowed to dream and soar. We thrived in our childhood pursuits despite the ravages of the environments in which we grew up. We got equipped with the ability to dream, to imagine, to create, to think critically, to solve problems, age-appropriate problems, to be responsive and be responsible. Though limited, we understood that we could make choices about our lives and we could help destiny along because we were encouraged to apply our minds to visualize our futures. Through the encouragement of a cohort of adults and teachers, we aspired to be something more than just kids who played violins and walked around as if we owned the world. We understood that if we put our minds to it, we could be whatever we chose to be. Spending time in Room 2 was not only a place to acquire knowledge about music, it was a sanctuary away from the many dangers of life in the township. A haven in which we could and often would dream about life outside the cloistered confines of Soweto, where we could aspire to be something more than what we saw or what we were. Room 2 was a microcosm of life in Soweto. It was an eclectic mix of children across the social divide. Our parents were teachers, nurses, social workers, and lawyers, domestic workers, and business people, and everyone in between. Every child deserves a Room 2. Every child deserves a Room 2 so that they can see life beyond their immediate reality, where they can dream, imagine, aspire to greatness. Every child deserves a Room 2. Every child deserves a Room 2 so that they can see the possibilities of existence beyond the drudgery of life as it may be. Every child deserves a Room 2, a space for becoming. Now, in reference to a paper that my mother delivered at the second Humasigala lecture a few years ago, she asked us, where do we find the riches that can propel us from poverty to prosperity? In a time of so much uncertainty and turmoil, how do we shift our minds from the mentality of lack gripping so much of society to prosperity thoughts and outlook? How can we tap into the knowledge that is all around us and empower ourselves with wisdom from the ground up as we navigate a milieu that continues to undermine our ability to dream and imagine? How do we remain hopeful in a time where we're collectively surrounded by so much grief and pain? And I believe it is at this point that she would have pointed us to a scripture that says, faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. Hebrews 11, verse 1. My mother valued education. She valued so much that she often questioned the state of our education system and the quality of education afforded to the children of South Africa. Her hopes for the children of South Africa or that they would aspire to be so much more than their limitations. She believed that a university education is not a barometer for intelligence. It is an indicator of how educable you are. In an ideal world, it should be an indicator of how well or how much you can think independently. In an ideal world, it should expand our minds in such a way that we can pull different strands and disciplines together and show their interconnectedness. My mother would have then quoted Sadhguru as having said, "Education should not be about molding children to how you want them, but about supporting their natural longing to know and blossom." While it may be government's role to present opportunities for people, to help them fulfill their aspirations and to realize their potential and dreams, how do we see ourselves in the bigger picture? How can we step up and stand in the gap and ensure that we fulfill our civic duty? For one thing, we need to commit ourselves to a loving, joyful, and compassionate world. One of my mother's favorite poems was "This Land South of Africa" by Don Matera. And in this poem, Don Matera says, "This land, the whole land will be healed, must be healed." He speaks of how the land must be healed with all the love it takes to pump one heart and fill it with a dream. He speaks of the sacred waterways, which must be washed with all the tears it takes to cleanse a stream. He speaks of the gifts of earth that must be shared with all the caring it takes to heal 1,000,000 hearts. He continues and says that these furnaces of human indifference must incinerate with all the heat of a healing fire. And so when he speaks of a broken land, a wounded place, bleeding rains of earth, crying a justice not done, dying a peace not won, he points out that this nation will not always be pallbearers shall be, but that it gather fruit of the free, knowing true justice, living true peace. Congratulations to all those who are graduating today. And as we contemplate our futures, the challenge is upon us to do what we need to do, to harness all that our imaginations direct us to do, in order to bring healing to this land, the whole land south of Africa, because it must be healed. May we reimagine our communities so that we continue to stay strong and resolute as the individuals within it continue to claim their space in a contradictory world, emboldened by the knowledge that we come from those who enriched the world. We bow in gratitude that as we connect and commune with each other, safely and physically distanced, may we commit ourselves to a peaceful, loving, and compassionate world. May we reclaim and harness nature's core elements so that we may restore that which has been lost. And even as the world feels bleak, may we find ourselves, young and old, a room too, where we can escape and find a means of expression that will bring to life all that we hope and dream for. And I believe at this point you would say, "Ngiyabonga, Magwande." Thank you.